Hello everyone, today I have the Samsung Galaxy A07 4G and we'll be taking a look at it. I bought this phone as a way to test Android apps for my Flutter project, but in the process I fell in love with this device and I'm gonna give you guys a review including a real world day in the life test as well as sharing my opinions on it as I've switched from my flagship iPhone 12 mini to this budget A07. Let's get right into it. The A07 comes in a flat box that gives you the device, a SIM ejection tool, a set of instructions, and a 25-watt USB-C to USB-C charging cable. Unlike other budget devices in this category and also in this price point, it doesn't give accessories like a charging brick or a case. Now let's talk about the design. The Galaxy A07 is simple, minimal, and clean. It has a simple dual camera system with a small LED flash stack on the back. I have the violet model here and it has this nice effect where it catches light. Both the back and the sides are plastic, but it feels like a high quality build. For buttons and ports, on the right side you've got the volume controls and the power button, which also has a fingerprint sensor built in. It is a capacitive fingerprint sensor and, dare I say, faster and more responsive than Face ID on my flagship iPhone 12 mini. The A07 comes with two physical SIM card slots and an SD card slot. It has a microphone at the top, and for the bottom it has a 3.5mm headphone jack, another microphone, a USB-C port, and a single speaker. The A07 has a plastic build, but as I said earlier, it doesn't feel cheap at all. It has IP54 water and dust resistant, but it is always recommended to be careful as it can only withstand a few splashes of water, but dust shouldn't do major harm. The display itself also feels sturdy. Although the phone can handle some accidents, I recommend putting on a case and a screen protector for better protection. However, personally, I use it without a case and only with a screen protector applied. Moving on to the display, it is a large 6.7-inch panel. The bezels are big and uneven, which is to be expected in a phone like this. The screen to body ratio is still at 85%, so bezels shouldn't be too big for you to hard to see. It is a PLS LCD panel, which is basically Samsung's version of an IPS LCD panel. It has good viewing angles and decently rich colors. It has a 90Hz adaptive refresh rate, so as soon as I started using it, I can see the smoothness compared to my 12 mini. Obviously, it's an LCD panel, so the blacks aren't going to be true blacks, which is something that I struggle as an OLED/mini LED user. But again, this is to be expected at this price point. Now let's talk about the battery, performance, and camera for this phone. To do that, I'll be taking you a full day in my life, and throughout the day, I'll be doing some demanding tasks, which is going to be a great opportunity to see the battery life, the overall performance, and the camera. At the end of the day, I'll share you guys my opinion and a summary. But before that, I think it's important for you guys to know the specs of this phone. The Galaxy A07 comes with a 5000 mAh battery for the 4G variant, which is what I have here, or a 6000 mAh battery for the 5G variant. As for the processor, the one I have here uses the MediaTek Helio G99 chip, whereas the 5G model uses the Dimensity 6300 and with roughly a 37% boost in performance. For RAM, my 4G variant comes with three options: 4, 6, and 8GB, and the 5G variant comes with 4 or 8GB. Other than that, both are the same specs. As for the cameras, you get two rear ones, a main 50MP and a 2MP sensor for depth effects, and with an 8MP front camera. For this video, I'll be testing the 4G variant. Okay, so I just woke up. It's 7 in the morning. I have a bunch of things to do in the morning and also some places to go in the afternoon and also in the evening. So better start working on preparing to go and do my task. It is currently 9:10 and I just arrived at my grandparents' place. They live just a few houses away from me and I like to go there on Saturdays of the week to work in a fresh and a new environment, and also like to talk with them. And I've used the phone a bit. I did some scrolling after I woke up and that's why the battery is at 92. Currently I'm on a 4G, but I'm gonna turn off mobile data and then move on to Wi-Fi because they have Wi-Fi here, and this is just a checkup. So the battery right now at 9:11 is 92%. Okay, so I'm currently on the road heading to the place that we're going. The battery is now at 72%, and that's because at home, while having lunch, I watched a few YouTube videos, and then after that, I did some contributions to the local maps, and obviously that required the GPS. And now we're starting the main test here. I'll be using Google Maps for the next 10 minutes. Currently, it's at 71, so let's see how the battery is going to drain when we arrive at the place. By this point, the battery was at 71% and I was a few minutes away from the place that I was going to. I arrived at that place with 69% battery. I took a few photos, but I wasn't able to take many due to the space limitations. And the rest of the two photos that I have shown on the video right now is taken from another place that I went to the day after. I will be talking in depth about the camera later in the video. Woke up from a nap, now ready to go out again, so I should be heading out soon. When I arrived at the clinic, the battery was at 36%. I did some scrolling and also used a bit of Discord while waiting for the results to come out, and that took me down to about 30% while I was going back home. And when I arrived at home, the battery was at 29%, and that was around 5:30. At the end of the day, at 10:10 p.m., the battery was at 16%. So in summary, I had a total of 6 hours and 27 minutes of screen on time and 10 hours and 36 minutes of screen off time, with a total of 1 hour and 10 minutes on YouTube with 13.8% battery consumption, followed by Google Maps with 47 minutes and 8.8%, and Discord with 44 minutes and 6.8%. Now let's go over the summary. In terms of performance, the Galaxy A07 is definitely a capable device. The MediaTek G99 is a good chipset for this price. It handles pretty well with games like Call of Duty, but in heavier games like Genshin Impact, it will start to struggle. Obviously, for basic tasks like calls and social media, it is going to handle it very well. Thus, the A07 is a great option for budget-conscious gamers. It gets slightly warm while gaming, but it doesn't get to the point where it's super hot and unusable and quickly cools back down. The battery, as you can see from the daily test, it was able to handle all of the hard tasks with 16% left at the end of the day. So even for me as a self-proclaimed power user, it could last a full day on normal days. For charging, since the A07 supports up to 25 watts, it can get from 0 to 100 within an hour and a half. As for the cameras, it's decent. Do keep in mind that there's a 50 megapixel sensor, but you can't zoom in. Only the 12 megapixel that you can do it. 12 megapixel images are sharper, whereas the 50 megapixel images are a lot brighter. Dark mode, as expected, is not that good. For video recording, you can record in 720p 30 fps or 1080p 30 fps. Not that good, but still decent for its price. The same can be said for the selfie camera, both photos and videos. Moving on to sound. It is bad. It has a single speaker and it is simply too loud and too scattered, especially the vocals. Even at max volume, you might struggle to hear in a noisy environment like on the roads or in a LAN room. In summary, for the sound, the speakers are okay in a quiet environment, but for more media consumption, I would recommend using a pair of headphones or a pair of earbuds. Finally, let's talk about my opinion as a flagship iPhone user to switch to this budget-friendly Samsung Android. Firstly, I'd like to start by saying that I've used Androids before, including the Redmi 4A and the Galaxy A02s. Both of them were budget devices, so my experience wasn't great even when looking back at the time that I was using them. However, today's low-end budget devices have now changed. I didn't expect the A07 to be this smooth. I initially bought it as a test device for Flutter development, but as I said in the beginning, I started using it more while in the process. Things like the 90Hz display, the software, and the battery is simply superior than the 12 mini. Yes, my iPhone 12 mini, although a flagship, is one of the two smallest Apple devices. In return, it's going to have lower storage and less space for the intensive chip to cool down. So my experience as a power user wouldn't be great. But the reason why I'm currently on my A07 as my main is because of the improvements that I have compared to my 12 mini. Plus, I prefer Android nowadays, especially Samsung's One UI. iOS used to be an OS which might be late in new features, but when Apple do eventually implement them, they implement them in a nice, useful, and an intuitive way. iOS and Apple software in general is known to be the most stable. I'm not saying that iOS didn't have bugs at all. Every software has its own set of bugs that is yet to be fixed. However, these days, iOS is buggier than ever. Small little bugs and annoyances that disturb my workflow. For example, Face ID. I actually liked the Face ID back then and it worked well on my iPhone 12 mini until iOS 26 came around. Since iOS 26, I've noticed that Face ID has gotten slower. But there's also a chance where it's just going to be stuck on the scanning tree and would do nothing at all. The only fix is to press the power button 2 times to put the phone into sleep and then to wake it up again. In addition, there are small inconsistencies inside iOS. I'm not being nitpicky here, but iOS used to be consistent, but nowadays it's the opposite of it. Of course, One UI is not perfect either. There are some features that I like to have on the A07 that is limited to flagship devices. For example, the Edge panel. I understand that Galaxy AI is not in lower models because of their limited processing power, but I think that simple features like Edge panel and Good Lock should be available on the A07. Not to mention the amount of inconsistencies when it comes to the use of fonts inside One UI and a super short, tiny little lag that happens when opening app, which I think is a bug because I only noticed it after updating to One UI 8. So yeah, I'm not complaining to Apple because I'm nitpicky or because I think Samsung is the best. I'm complaining to Apple because they aren't what they used to be anymore. Another thing that I like to point out is software support. Apple used to be king at this and still one of the kings today. Only in 2024 that Android started to catch up, with Google and Samsung starting a 6 to 7 year upgrade cycle. I never thought it was going to come to budget phones, but I was wrong. The Galaxy A07 comes with 6 years of OS and security updates. As soon as I got the phone, I was able to upgrade to One UI 8 without any problems and without any major lags. Now, although I'm using the A07 as my main device, I still carry my 12 mini wherever I go. That's because I have my second number as an eSIM in my iPhone 12 mini and because the cameras are simply better on the iPhone. But apart from that, 95% of the things that I do on my phone is now being done on the budget A07. Alright, that's all that I've got for this video. I hope you guys like this style of videos where I mainly review a product with a day in life test for certain parts of that product while comparing it to other similar ones and sharing my opinions on them. If you enjoyed these videos, make sure to like and subscribe because more amazing content like this, including new Samsung and Android videos, are coming in the future.